So, common tone chord progressions. You may or may not have heard of them, but I use them a lot in this cue. It's called Cosmic Conquest, and you know how we do. We'll take a listen to it, and then we'll talk about it on the flip. And we'll talk about those common tone chord progressions as well. All right, let's check it out. All right, so there you have it. Cosmic Conquest. So again, as I said, excuse me, I use some common tone chord progressions within this. And just to kind of talk about that a little bit, if you're not familiar with it, basically, you're moving your chord progressions based upon common tonality. My first chord in this regard is a D flat minor chord. My second chord is a C major chord. The common tone that those chords share is in E. And then I go back to D flat minor, and after that I move to E minor. And of course, the common tone that the D flat minor and the E minor chord share are, of course, E minor. And then I modulate to a flat minor from E minor, and the common tone that those chords shares to B, etc., etc. So just a little quick explanation on what the common tone chord progression is. And as I said, I use it a lot in this cue. So let's kind of, I guess, talk about it just a little bit. First and foremost, the chord progression. So as I said, starts D flat minor, goes to C major, back to D flat minor, E minor, then back, D flat minor, C major, D flat minor again, to E minor, a little bass movement to get us up to A flat minor, and then it does the same progression now just in A flat minor, to G major, A flat minor to the B minor, right? And then again, A flat minor, G major, A flat minor, again back to the B minor. The only chord in the entire cue that doesn't share a common tone with another chord is our C minor passing chord to get us back to D flat minor. So other than that, every single chord in this cue shares a common tone, and that's pretty much what the cue is built around. So again, so you hear the title Cosmic Conquest. So it's kind of otherworldly, a little dark, kind of epic dark. The way that the cue starts, a timpani hit kind of sets us up, and I think really kind of sets the tone for what it is, that we have here in the type of cue that it is. And then our theme is announced with our horns and our low strings. So horns, I believe violas and cellos. And then we get that fanfare kind of feel because we get those trumpets kind of hitting those tripping to give it that type of fanfare type of feel. And that's what I want, kind of like this is an announcement of what this is going to be. And then we have like some synth and piano just with some choral support. So just to get into it, so, just boom. And I think it's kind of cool just to open with a timpani. They don't get a whole bunch of love just by themselves, but I just kind of like introducing that. And then boom, I mean, we got a major, hit, right off with that D flat minor, real nasty. We got our low brass in right from the jump, with our bass as well. I mean, we're starting off kind of hitting this. It develops, because we're not full on. We're stating the theme, but we're stating it in a pretty aggressive manner. So again, we have our low brass, we have our sub bass, and our normal orchestral bass. And then we have the synth pad and this piano. So yeah, you hear that just real aggressive. So just trying to come out the gate aggressive, but that synth. So it's a hybrid cue, and that synth gives you that kind of spacey, if you will, kind of vibe. So that's why I wanted to use that sound within the cue. And then again, as I said, the melody is carried by our horns. So we have the a horn ensemble and the 12 horns legato. But you see, I have them coupled with short articulations as well, just to try to help them cut through just a little bit. So, and then we also have the viola and the cello, and then I have them coupled with the marcato articulation. So the longs and the marcatos, just to give a little more definition. So, and I think we have a flute as well. So let me get that in there. We have a flute and we have a bassoon. So that's everybody that's carrying the melody to open the theme. So there you have it. I mean, real big, aggressive, with the melody really kind of stating the theme. And then, like I said, the if I play the horns and the trumpets, then you hear the trumpets kind of answer the horns to give it that fanfare type of vibe. So one more time with the trumpets in there. So just the horns and the trumpets. So yeah, so real fanfarish, And I think, other than that, we just have some drums, that are kind of real open to, start us out, just kind of helping support. So more accenting things that are going on. So yeah, so there you have it. There, one thing that I would say is I love using is gongs and tam tams. I think for that epic stuff, they just give you some really really cool, just cool energy. So I would suggest maybe including them in your epic pieces as well if you don't. Okay, so that really is pretty much kind of what happens on that first half of a theme. Again, it's in D flat minor. And then the second half of the theme moves into A flat minor. We have some woodwind runs that kind of push us into A flat minor, and then you'll hear the drums open up a little more when we get into that modulation, and then the trumpets and the flutes take the melody, and the high strings, the piccolo, and the synths, they move to the ostinato, and then our lower brass, not our low brass that are carrying the bottom end, but our mid low brass, I guess I'll say, horns and trombones have this, and some of the low winds have this staccato energy that they're doing underneath that. So let's get into the modulation. So listen for the woodwind run to get us up into the modulation, and then you'll hear how the trumpets and flute takes it, and you hear the ostinato kind of happening on the other instruments. And then I'll kind of break that down for you. So here we go, getting into A flat minor. So a lot going on in just that little short bit. So again, what we have is this constant handing off. So you hear the trumpets now predominant on the melody, although we do have the flute in there as well. But obviously, a flute can't compete with a trumpet. It's just adding some color on top. Is basically what it's doing. And then you hear the horns. I'm sorry. Doing a counter, ba da da da. So you hit the trump, ba da 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 dee dee da, ba da da da, with the counter melody in the horns, and then we have some low brass that are doing some other things as well. So one thing I want to point out for you with the trumpets is you will see that I'm using a combination. Those blues are just shorts. So I'm using the shorts and long articulations together just to try to really give the trumpet some definition on the note. So if I play that together, and then if I play just the short, so layered in, softly. So again, let me play it for you together. So you hear how on the front of each of those notes, you just get a little more defined articulation. So something that maybe you can use as well if you need, your articulation to cut through a little more. And again, I said earlier, I did the same thing in my strings and my low strings. I used a marcato mixed in with the legato, and it kind of does the same thing. Just gives you a little more definition. Outside of that, our low or mid-low brass, let's call them mid-low, so our horns and our trombones, and I'm actually using the center brass and the BBC trombones together this time, along with our violas and our cellos. And anybody in our winds carrying it? Yeah. And then we have a second bassoon as well, and a clarinet that are carrying this little short motif against the melody and the, so we got a melody, right? We have the ostinato, and then we have this motif. So all that is kind of going on. And then just the other thing is the drums open up a little more in this section. So just, real different, but the energy kind of picks up a little bit. It's just got that weird kind of like Danny Elfman-y, Halloween-y kind of sounding vibe, in the percussions right there or whatever. But the whole point was just to try to create that epic kind of march, if you will, kind of energy in there. So, excuse me, that's pretty much everything that happens in there. And let me play out the arpeggio for you that's happening between the synth, and then I'm using a full ensemble short with our violin 1 short and our violin 2 short, and the piccolo. So let's get the piccolo in there as well. So there you have it. And really cool. And you say, what? Was a piccolo in there? And yeah, a piccolo is in there. I don't have it, really hot. Piccolos cut through. So just they really cut through. So I kind of have it really layered in there, but you do hear it. You just don't maybe realize that you hear it, but. And you say, well, he's not playing really hard, or she. And you're right, because I intentionally, as you see, so you see where I have in terms of the velocities. I don't have it blowing really, really hard. So say, for instance, if maybe I take this up by like 10 or 15 right here. So. But I just did those high. I just didn't want it cutting that much. So let's take that back down there. Maybe we'll leave it up, a little more. But didn't want it cutting that much. Where it really kind of sticks through. But in the grand scheme of things, it kind of works with everything. So again, it's in A flat minor. Then it demodulates back to D flat minor to finish out the phrase. Excuse me, but now when it goes back to D flat minor, the horns, violins, bassoons, oboe, and flute are now carrying the melody. So the melody is just getting handed off, as the keys change, the melody is being handed off to different parts of the orchestra as well. So it gets handed off, like I said, to the horns, violins, bassoons, etc. And then that gets us through the next transition into D flat major before we get into the bridge. So I'm going to let it play through. It's in A flat minor now. I'm going to let it play through D flat minor into the bridge, and then we'll break down the bridge a little bit. So now the horns and violins and bassoons have the melody and the flute. So the bridge. So we're into the bridge now, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the cue. And in this particular section, basically, what I was trying to do is give it sort of that Captain Marvel type of feel. I love Pinar Toprick. I love that score. And specifically, I love what she does, like with the hybrid stuff, like the way that the synth art kind of rides through the orchestra and that real kind of open, spacey feel. That she is able to create. So I was trying to create that type of vibe with the synth arp, with the celeste. Now moving to the celeste, playing the chords and that very light um, high violin one and two with clarinet and cornet playing the first half of the melody, and then the clarinet and cornet handed off to an oboe and to a bassoon. So let's just listen to some of the elements that we have working in the bridge. So one of my favorite things, again, like I said, is the synth art that's happening through there. So. So a few things that I want to show you here. So first of all, obviously you hear the delay. So let me bring up the instrument first. So if we bring up the instrument, it's the mellow lead in Podolsky, one of my favorite, and definitely my favorite free synth. So check it out if you haven't. I told you about it. It's awesome. So this is the mellow lead. And as you can see, it has a quarter and a dotted eighth delay kind of built in to the patch already, right? So then I hit it with some more delay, which is the H delay, and I'm using a dotted eighth as well, just to hit it with a little more delay. And then I got a little reverb, a sin, reverb sin. Coming from, and I'm using the woodwind verbs, and of course you guys know that I high pass everything. But then one thing I want to show you that I also here I automate um, just kind of it moving through the stereo field from left to right. So you see how I just have it moving, just moving it back and forth through the stereo field, just to give it some interest as you hear it. You may not even notice that you're hearing it when it's happening, but just something that you can do just to create a little more interest. Obviously, the delay certainly helps, but I do that sometimes. Just maybe move a piece, kind of automate it through the stereo field, just to create some type of interest. So the other thing that we have here is the celeste, and I think it just adds that kind of helps add that kind of spacey kind of you hear some celeste and a lot of fantasy type stuff, so just that kind of vibe to it, right? So and if you hear that with that synth art. Just really cool. And then we have the female choir, so the women's choir, that nice airy vibe on top of it, right? And then what kind of tops it off is we have the violin one, violin two, and viola, along with, like I said, clarinet, cornet, carrying the first half of the melody. And then it switches off, they hand it off to the oboe and the bassoon. And then the men's choir comes in with some additional brass, etc. But let's just listen to those elements. Okay. So some of the main parts. The only other thing that happens is when we get to the second half of that piece, we do introduce this synth part. This so that's back. So we'll call that our space synth, if you will. But so we got the synth back. We do introduce some low brass as well. I think that's a tuba and monster low brass. Right, right. So just just to kind of bring us kind of back to we're almost back at our recapitulation. So now I'm going to play that whole bridge for you. Oh, well, the only other thing is, let me show you very quickly, is the drums. The drums totally, we get really, really light. We kind of go to like rims or wood type of feel in our drums. And then the Glock is playing that melody with the high strings. And then the timpani just lets us know that it's still epic, you know. And of course, it starts building back up. So I'll play the bridge for you. We'll kind of get through the bridge. We'll get into the recapitulation, break that down, and we'll be done. So here we go. Okay, so here we go. It is, time to sort of bring home the whole deal. So, as you heard, we had a section at the recapitulation, which is just the theme being, brought back around. And it's almost like a 2D section, of course, when everybody's playing the same thing except our low brass. So I don't know if there's a sort of 2D, but it's not a total 2D section there because our low brass is still carrying the low end, but mostly everybody else in the orchestra is playing that ba ba da 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 da. So when we get to A flat minor, I'm sorry, when we get to the recapitulation in D flat minor, so there you have that. And then so you hear that, and I do this a lot, where I try to create, some tension, now that we're kind of moving through this cue. So you hear that, I don't know if it's here. Yeah. So you hear that, da, 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 what's happening right there. So basically what's happening right there is we have a C major 7 chord over E, um, which is, so we have this, so we have the E and we have this chord. So C major over E. And basically what I'm doing is I'm creating some dissonance with my trumpets, excuse me, playing that triplet feel. So as you see right here, within the chord, so I have, my first and second trumpets, playing what the 1 and the 5. And then my third and fourth trumpets, I have them, right up against each other with the dissonance, playing 7 and 1. So playing that B and C right against each other there. Let's solo that. So you have that, and then the other dissonance that you may not hear. So you have like that high B being played by like the strings and the flute and piccolo. But what I do to create a little more dissonance is I have the oboe playing a C. So they have a interval of a major seventh, and it just creates. So they're playing it. Well, I'm sorry, I can't play a polyphonic part on an oboe, can I? So they have this. Why's my piano not playing? Oh, because it's muted. There we go. So that's what you're getting between the oboe and the flute and piccolo. So you get this. So that's the other dissonance that you're hearing, and of course you hear those rips all the way through. And I don't know if I even identified those. So let me just show you that very quickly. So I have like these runs up, which are pretty much flute and piccolo, and then oboe, clarinet, and bassoon. And so you heard that run up there. So pretty much, just to show it to you, actually, let's open that up so you can see what I'm using there. So I'm using colors of adaptive runs, and I'm not going to go into how to set it up because I actually go into it a little more in another cue that I did. I'll leave a link to that cue for you at the end. So if you kind of want to check it out, you can check out how I actually use this, but it's really, really cool. It's by Project Sam. And it's a great way to just it has strings, trumpets, woodwinds, everything that you would need in terms of, creating realistic sounding runs. So, but yeah, so that's what I use there. So that's the dissonance that you hear. And then after that, when we get back to A flat minor, now the trumpets and the horns take it home. You always kind of want, your big brass as you're trying to put your final, stamp on the piece in something epic like this, of course, with your choir as well to kind of take the piece home. So what we'll do is I don't think there's really anything else, I don't think to talk through, but let's listen through from the recapitulation to the end. Whoops, but I guess we have to open it up, right? All right, so here we go. And of course, you always want to have that nice, button on the end. Ba 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 ba. I'm sorry, ba 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 ba. Just a nice, button on the end of it. But that's pretty much it. And as you heard, we really did stay really between what D flat minor, C major, E minor, A flat minor, G major, B minor, pretty much was the entire cue, besides using that C minor chord to pass to get us back to the D flat minor. So again, I hope that you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed the cue. If you did, as always, please, give me a like. Would love for you to subscribe if you have not, because I'll certainly be bringing some more content. And if you'd like this content and you'd like to see some more, please subscribe. And I'll definitely be bringing some more content, more of the same type of content as well. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. And again, I hope you got something from it. And until next time, peace.